Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Paper Crane Yarns Knitting Podcast. Ashley, and I am a yarn dyer and a yarn store owner located in Alabama, USA, and I am coming to you today from my yarn store, and it is Sunday, May 25th, is that right? I am so happy to be here recording finally. So the last video that I uploaded to my channel was a spring making video, just a little compilation of everything I was getting up to in the early spring. So many of you seem to really enjoy that video, and I'm really glad because it was a lot of fun to put together. I have been recording clips to make another one of those videos, but these past several weeks have been intensely busy, so yeah. But anyway, I am so glad to be here today, finally sitting down to show you everything that I have been making these past couple of months, really. So for today's video, I have several knitting finished objects as well as works in progress. I also have lots of sewing and cross stitch, so a little bit of everything today. I have been spinning, but I will save that for another time when I have a little bit more progress. And I would love to talk about a little bit of life stuff at the very end. So first, I'm going to talk about all of my projects, and I am going to just sort everything in the categories of finished objects, then works in progress. So hopefully you care to see all of the different crafts that I've been working on, but you can always skip over a project that maybe you're not as interested in. So now we can get started with my finished objects. So first up, I will talk about the two finished objects that I am currently wearing. One is knitting and one is sewing. So of course you can see this knitted collar that I'm wearing. This pattern is called Sonatine by Miki Teragaki, and it is just the most gorgeous little project. I've had this on my queue for probably the last year or so, and I finally got around to making it. So I think it was a couple of months ago, I had to place an order with an online yarn store for a skein of yarn I needed for another project, and they also carry La Bien-Aimée. So I decided to finally get a skein of the Wensley worsted, which is what this pattern calls for, and of course you can use other yarns, but I was very curious about trying out Wensley and specifically this color, so I went ahead and got this skein, and yeah, turned it into this gorgeous collar. So this used probably about 80 grams of yarn, of the worsted weight yarn, and I laugh every time I think about Wensley and Wensleydale because I always think about the Wallace and Gromit meme where Wallace is Palpatine. I'll try to insert that here because it's amazing, but it was a gorgeous yarn to work with. It's very toothy, like a very wonderful woolly wool, and I love that. If you are sensitive to wools, you may want to try something like a superwash merino, since this goes right around your neck. And again, if you're sensitive, it being right here may bother you, but for me, I don't mind it. And of course, it's practically summertime outside, so it is a little bit, it's probably warmer than you might expect, but it's still comfortable that I can wear it right now in the late spring. So I am so in love with it. There's not a whole lot I can say, I guess. It knitted up pretty quickly. I got it done in just a few days, and the construction is very fun. I've had some people ask me if this is easy, and I would say absolutely. So you actually start down here at the widest part of the circumference, and you do this little scalloped edge. That was an interesting technique that I hadn't done a scallop like this before. I think it looks gorgeous. So again, that was maybe the most complicated part of the project, but even then there are really well written out instructions on how to do this technique, and Miki also includes a link to like a silent video tutorial showing you how to accomplish that. So I think anybody could do that. And then of course there are some decreases so that the circumference gets a little bit smaller here around your neck, and then you finish off with, you knit a certain length of I-cord, and then you like join the I-cord with your live stitches here after all your decreases, and then you do an I-cord bind off around the neck, and once you get all the way around the neck, you continue on with another length of I-cord, so that way you end up with these two long I-cord ties that you can turn into a bow. So of course there's different ways you can style it, but every time I've worn it, I've just worn it with the cute little bow, and I think it is just the cutest thing. I have plans to make one of these in every color, so I'm planning on using some of my hand-dyed yarn, like in my caramel latte colorway. I think that would look really pretty. So yeah, I've got plans for that, and I have found that it's been working with lots of different outfits, so that's excellent, of course. And I did not mention the colorway of this. I will have it linked below or on the screen, but I believe it was Bouse de Rose, something like that. It's in French, so I'm sure that pronunciation is incorrect, but yeah, it's just a beautiful soft pink color, and that's that. So that is my Sonatine collar. And the other finished object that I'm wearing is a dress. So today I've paired it over a long sleeve bodysuit to provide a little bit of coverage up at the top, because I did make the straps a little bit too long. I'm going to have to fix that. So it's a little too low for my comfort right now. And I thought the pink looked pretty with this collar anyway. But this is the Orchard Dress pattern by Helen's Closet, and it's a free pattern. If you sign up for their newsletter, you can download the pattern for free. So that's what I did, and I picked out the most gorgeous fabrics from Merchant and Mills, and I purchased them from Bolt Fabric Boutique, which is I think they're out of Portland, Oregon. So that's my go-to, because I get this question often, that's my go-to garment fabric store. And they also offer PDF printing, so I get my sewing patterns printed with them as well, so that I can save myself the trouble of taping together 30 pages of a pattern. And yeah, so they have a really great price for that. And so whenever I'm buying fabric, or I will wait until I need fabric and the PDF at the same time, and I will just get a couple of patterns printed, order my apparel fabric. So yeah, so again, this was Merchant and Mills, and I will have inserted a photo. I'll try to stand up a little bit and show you as well. You could probably see where the straps are a little bit too long, so I will just have to figure out how to adjust that. And it's sort of an A-line dress, so there's no real shaping. It's narrower in the bodice, and it comes out it's like a really pretty sundress, and it's nice and relaxed and just slightly oversized, so I can be really comfortable in it and pair it over something like this for a layered look. And yeah, very simple to make, very, very easy. And it was exactly the kind of garment pattern that I needed for right now. So about a month and a half ago, I think, I finally purchased a serger. So I have been sewing now for several years, but I mostly do quilting and bag sewing. And I've never really had a need for having serged edges, because usually my raw edges are enclosed in like a bag lining, or I put bias tape over them and all of that. So I've been wanting to get into garment sewing for years, and finally I decided that I would go ahead and really give it a shot. And so I've made a few things over the past year or so, and yeah, I knew that I wanted to commit to getting a serger, but when I first got it about a month and a half ago, it just sat in the box for a while because I didn't have, it's like I was making garments, but still nothing that had raw edges. So finally, I got around to making this pretty much as soon as I got the fabric, and I figured out my serger. You know, I was a bit hesitant because I'd always heard that it was a bit of a pain to thread it with all the different threads that you have to put in the serger. I have to say, don't listen to people, because I felt like so intimidated to try it because I always heard that it was so tricky. And I'll be honest, and I know that part of it is the machine that I have, but it was easy peasy. I mean, I followed the most wonderful video tutorial. I'll try to link it below if I can find it again. And the woman who made the video, she spelled it out so clearly. We have the same machine, it's like a compact serger from Brother, I think, and yeah, works wonderfully. I hope that, you know, I hope I continue to have that experience. But yeah, so anyway, this has beautifully serged seams, and I think it's going to last a long time. So as I've discussed in my past several videos now, part of my goal when I am creating things these days is to make items that can really go well together. And so when I was picking, you know, the color for this collar and the color for my fabric, I was already envisioning this sort of outfit in mind. So it's always so fun to see that come to life. And then of course, everything else I've been making, I've been trying to create similar pieces that I can pair with these things that I'm making. So yeah, it feels so great to see it come together. I love this look. You know, my husband, he like lovingly laughed at me when I was like, look at my collar. I'm trying to remember what he said. I think he was asking me if I was trying to replicate the Elizabethan era, and I told him I'm going for more like Shakespearean bard or circus core. If you'll indulge my nonsense briefly, my style recently, and probably my whole life, I've felt this way, but I really am interested in this like children's storybook come to life kind of deal. So the pretty collar, this seafoam kind of sage green dress, just this color palette, wearing moths, you know, I just think it's fun to kind of feel a little bit like anthropomorphic animal circus core come to life. So and then you have to have an element of like mermaid lagoon, which is where the color palette comes from. So yeah, I've been having fun kind of creating like inspiration and picking patterns and colors based on that sort of silly idea. But you know what? I love it. So I have a feeling some of you do too. Okay, let's move on. So I do have a whole stack of other finished objects here to show you. So I'm just gonna go one by one, starting with what's on top. And oh, you know, I forgot one. I should go grab it. So we will start with what's on top, and I will be honest, these are a little dingy because I finished them quite a while ago and I've already worn them several times. So I'm going to try to obscure the dirtiness with my hand here, just give you an idea. I've actually worn these so many times that I've already washed them a couple of times. Here, if I just hold the cuffs, then you can't quite see how dirty they've gotten. But you know, that's a good thing. It shows you that I'm really getting use out of the things that I make. So yes, these are a cute little pair of ruffle Shorty socks. This is a pattern by Summer Lee Designs, and it's from her Shorty sock bundle. I can't remember what this particular pattern is called, but it's the one with the ruffles, and again, I'll have it linked below. So I finished these quite a while ago again, and I have been wearing them. They're already felting on the bottom and all of that jazz. So the yarn that I used is KnitPicks Stroll, and I believe the colorway is Dogwood Heather. It's a really pretty soft pink. And again, it's a Shorty sock pattern. I have a US women's size 7 to 7.5 foot, and I knitted these out of less than one ball of that yarn, and those are 50-gram balls of yarn. I had already used the yarn in some other things, so yeah, this barely took any yarn, and it's extremely wearable. I have been wearing them with sneakers and loafers and basically everything I can get away with. So yeah, it's great to finally have a pair of socks I can wear in the warmer weather. And of course the color goes with majority of my wardrobe. The only thing I will say is that I actually wish that the ruffle was a little bit more ruffled. So I knit the 56 stitch size, the smallest size I think. If I had done the 64 stitch pattern, the ruffle would probably be a little bit more pronounced, but because I like to make my socks a little bit tighter now, I think when this ribbing is stretched over my ankle, it kind of flattens out the cuff, the ruffled cuff a little bit. So if I make this particular pattern again, I may do the 64 stitch count in the cuff and then go to the 56 stitch in the foot. And we'll see, that might give me more of a ruffle, or I may actually look for another pattern that has a little bit more of a ruffle, because I definitely want to make more ruffled socks. And I'm actually thinking about maybe doing like a mohair ruffle, like a really exaggerated ruffle, but doing it in like a really soft mohair, and then having sort of like a matching yarn, like a sock yarn for the rest of the foot. So that's just an idea that I have, but I think it would be really pretty. And these socks would go really well with the outfit I'm currently wearing. But I wanted to show you, so I did not put them on. So there's that one. Next, I will show you a finished cardigan. And this is a project that I cast on a very long time, but when I got started, I realized there was quite a bit of math and keeping track of increases and decreases. It was a lot of, the chart included a lot of details of like, while you do this, also work this. So I had to be very conscious of where I was in the pattern and each and every row. And so when I casted it on, it wasn't a great time for me to work on a project quite like that. So I put it away for a long time. And then over the past few months, I finally pulled it back out. And originally I even considered, I think after I had split for the sleeves, I kind of considered ripping it out. Let me show you the project, but I'm trying to remember the name of the designer. So this is the Dipped Arms cardigan by Katrin Schneider, and I will go ahead and tell you mine is modified. I'll talk a little bit about that, but first I'll kind of give you a look at the cardigan and I'll insert some photos. It's really beautiful and it's so drapey. It's fingering weight yarn. It's very lightweight. The main color is Sweet and Spookier by Cat Sandwhich Fiber on her trusty base, which is the merino nylon base. But I will say this is really a light fingering versus a fingering weight. This is the same yarn base that when I first started dyeing yarn, this was the base that I would purchase, and it's 462 yards, and it's a little thinner than what I think a lot of dyers work with now, which are more like 437 yards. And that doesn't sound like a big difference, but the yarns are pretty different. So I should have used a little bit more of a plump fingering weight yarn for this pattern. My gauge is a lot tighter, so I did knit, I think I went up a size in the pattern because my gauge was tighter with this yarn, but I was sort of committed to using this yarn for the project, so I tried to sort of mitigate that so that it wouldn't be too small. So yes, I did go up the size in the pattern, I think, and I like it. I don't love it. I'll be honest. I don't love it. I thought I was going to love it. My plan is to give it another block and see if it works out a little bit better. But, and I think what it really is up here where the drop shoulder meets where I knit the sleeve. I don't love there's no ease right here in this drop shoulder. So I can only really wear this over a tank top. Like I can't have any extra fabric on my arms because otherwise it's like my exact circumference and it's just not very comfortable. And I feel like because it's down on my arm, if it's really tight, it sort of pulls the shoulder down and then it doesn't sit on my shoulders. And this kind of cardigan already sort of doesn't sit great on the shoulders always. So I do know that when I knitted this, when I finished the body, I went ahead and blocked it to make sure I liked the length, because I just wanted to make sure it was good before I moved on to the sleeves. So I did that. I liked the body as it was, and then I knitted the sleeves, and when I blocked it again, I actually only soaked the sleeves and blocked those. So I don't think I ever really blocked the shoulder with the sleeve. So I think giving it another good block will probably make me love this. But it is quite cute. So the modifications I did, the first one I did was by accident because I did not read the pattern clearly. You're supposed to start with a provisional cast on at the shoulders, and I probably did a long tail cast on I love provisional cast on. I wasn't avoiding it, I just didn't read the pattern correctly. So I decided to just stick with it because all that would mean is that later I would have to pick up the stitches here. So you can kind of see, you can kind of probably see here it's a bit of a lighter yarn, but there is sort of a seam right there where I picked up the stitches at the shoulder. But you know, in my research, my sweater knitting research over the years, I have learned that a lot of people believe that helps the overall longevity of the garment, because here we've got sort of like an anchoring point where that weight is pulling on, versus if I did a provisional cast on and it was just a cohesive slope of yarn, you know, over time this is probably going to last a little bit better, not stretch out, just that sort of thing. So I'm okay with that. Like that modification is fine. But so that did lead to me having to do the collar in a bit of a different way, since I wasn't able to use the provisional cast on at the back of the neck to do that. So I just basically picked up, I think at the same rate that she recommended for the body until you got to the provisional cast on, and then I think I picked up every stitch for the back of the neck, because patterns that I've knitted before where you do a picked up band collar all the way around, usually that's the ratio I've encountered. So it's almost like we'll say you pick up 2 out of every 3 stitches along the body, and then you do every stitch at the back of the neck, and then 2 out of every 3 stitches along the body, something like that. So that's what I did. And then the biggest modification I think I made was the sleeves. So that pattern, what made me fall in love with it was the color work pattern on the sleeve. It's really beautiful, and I did attempt it. I tried to make that, but it's one of those color work charts where you have very, very long floats. And because I knew that my sleeve was already a little bit smaller because of my tighter gauge, even going up a needle size, my sleeve was just far too tight. So I attempted the color work at the beginning here, and I just determined it wasn't going to work for me. So I decided to shift gears a little bit and do a fading pattern. And so I used the same fade recipe from La Prairie by Joji Locatelli, which I knitted maybe 2 years ago. So I followed that same kind of, you know, do 2 rows of this, 4 rows of this, and so on and so forth. And I think it would have looked excellent, but obviously I used pretty solid tonal yarns. That kind of fading usually looks the best when you are using something like speckled and variegated, but I just decided to stick with it because my plan was to have a really big pop of color in this cardigan for the sleeve, and I wanted to stick with that, so I just decided to go ahead and keep these. I don't love the way it looks when it's just sort of hanging there. I feel like it's just so-so, but when I wear it, because that fabric bunches up a little bit, I feel like, you know, it's a little bit more, it blends a little bit better. So yeah, I probably don't need to be so hyper fixated on all of those little details, but you know, this project was a little bit of a labor, so those things kind of matter. But anyway, I'll give it one more good block and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to put it on. Normally I try on my sweaters, but I'm not going to put it on just because I'm wearing long sleeves and all that stuff. So there's that one. The next finished object that I have is the Isla shawl, and this is a pattern by Bichet Bouche. So Knitting Nelly over on Instagram was co-hosting a make-along for this pattern, and so I decided to join because I thought it was really cute, very small, you know, just really cute. So I decided to go ahead and join, and I basically used the same yarns as they did in the original pattern because I really liked that, you know, that bright poppy red. I think that I had to get a stark white, whereas they used the off-white, but I ordered this yarn from the Woolly Thistle and they were out of stock of the off-white. And then I can't remember if this color is the same as the pattern or not, because the picture on the Woolly Thistle website, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a sage green instead of this icy blue. So I was a bit disappointed when it arrived in person and it was more blue than I expected. But I still overall really like this. I just think it would fit my wardrobe better if it was more green than blue. But it's really cute, and there's a couple different ways you can wear it. Of course, you can tie it around your neck like a little bandana. That's what I've done mostly. In the pattern, they kind of wear it this way, so that little point is on the back of your neck, and you just have a little tie here at the front, which I think is very cute. I've also tied it around one of the straps on my bags, and so it's just been kind of going places with me, just tied around my bag. And that's that, really. It was fun. The construction was very easy. It was mosaic colorwork knitting mostly, which I love, and I did actually carry my yarns the whole time, so is that right? I believe I carried my yarns all through the mosaic colorwork, so I didn't have a bunch of ends to weave in at the end of that. I think I did not carry my yarns when I got down to the garter section because there were some longer stretches. No, I don't remember. I knitted this in like 2 days, but if you watched my spring making vlog, you kind of saw it then. So, but yes, I do remember carrying my yarns for at least the majority of this project, and it worked out great. It's very soft and beautiful. And obviously it took very little yarn. I still have lots of yarn left. I actually think this shawl is the perfect size for my almost 3-year-old daughter. She put it on around her shoulders and it was so cute. So I think I might make her one as well with the leftover yarn. So yeah, that is my Isla shawl. Very cute. Next up we have a singular sock with most of its ends woven in, but there's still a long one here on the toe. So this is of course the fall The Smell of Mushrooms pattern by Kim of Oakwood Knits, and it is my continuation of knitting all of the Stardew Valley socks, all of the seasons. So I've knitted one fall sock. I did start this back in the fall, and I had gotten to maybe about here, and then I put it away because of like test knits and deadlines and festivals and all of that. And so I brought it back out, and I think I finished the rest of the foot in like a day or two. So I just need to go ahead and knit the second one. So far I have 2 of the spring socks, so I've got a full pair. I've got 1 summer sock, and I've got 1 fall sock. So I would love to knit the other summer sock this summer. So we'll see if I get around to that. I will say, and this is on me, and I keep making these slightly too small, but the other ones, the spring and summer, they will go on and they fit and they look really cute. It's a little bit tricky to put them on, and again, that's on me. But this one, unfortunately, the way I knitted it, the foot would fit me and the leg does fit me, but there is something right in here that's preventing it from going over my heel. And I'm honestly not disappointed because, so I did knit the smallest size of this pattern, and I had a feeling that could happen. But I'm not disappointed because so far with my Stardew socks, it's like they're so beautiful, and I feel like they are so intrinsic in people's minds to my shop that they're hanging up inside my shop, all of them, and I've never actually worn them other than to try them on. I really use them more for decoration. So yeah, I'm okay with the fact that this doesn't fit because I probably would never have worn this. Not to say you shouldn't. I love to wear my very special things, but these in particular, I just love them so much that I just want to continue using them as decorations. Maybe one day I'll wear them. But yes, so that's one of the fall socks, and it is gorgeous. Stay tuned because we may have something kind of special coming to the shop regarding this. So yeah. My next finished object is another sweater. This one is a pullover, and it is extremely cute. I have to admit, I know that this is a bit of a controversial pattern, but this is the King Salmon sweater by Caitlin Hunter, and I honestly love it so much. So I have knitted a handful of Caitlin Hunter's patterns, and you know, admittedly, the finished object is always so cute, but over the years, as I have improved my skills as a knitter, I have realized that the fit is kind of terrible on all of the ones that I have made. I think a little bit of that I know is me and my knitting, and honestly, a little bit of it is just there are certain issues with the patterns that are easily modified, but I think at the time of knitting them, I just wasn't aware of them, and usually it has to do with the neckline. So I was a little bit hesitant to cast this on, I'll be honest, but I had this green yarn, and this is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. I had this in stash. I've had it in stash for a couple of years. I bought them from a second sale from them a couple of years ago, and when this sweater came out, I just thought that it was the perfect option. So I ordered this one skein of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in Foothills to go with my green, and yeah, long story short, I initially planned on modifying this because I know there was a lot of people didn't love the length of the yoke. So the yoke is the entire colorwork chart. And, you know, you could absolutely make the argument that there are plenty of places higher up where she could have split for the sleeves and then continued the chart in the body. And some of the test knitters actually did that, and their versions look so gorgeous. So when I decided to cast this on, my intention was actually to follow those instructions and to separate for the sleeves after the last increase round, which was somewhere up here. So my yoke would have stopped more like right here, and this would have been in the body. I actually did that, and I did not like the way it fit. So I ripped that out and I knitted the pattern as written. So yeah, I think everybody's experience with it is going to be a little bit different. I'm sure that part of why I love the way it turned out is, you know, I used the recommended yarn. I also did knit the body a bit longer than called for. So clearly this yoke is very long. And you know, if the yoke was split higher, you probably could get away with a shorter body. And that's how Caitlin knitted hers. I think it looks really cute on her, but I saw lots of concern that the second you raise your arms, you're in swan show territory, and it's just gonna lift right up and expose everything underneath. And I always wear something under my sweater, so I wasn't necessarily concerned with that, but I did think it looked a little bit odd, at least on my body. So I knitted it maybe 1.5 inches or so longer, and I think that it all turned out perfect. So I did knit a larger size than maybe I would have needed, but I wanted that really cute, somewhat oversized fit, especially since I was kind of already leaning into the long yoke. I thought, let's just go for it, let it be a little bit of a swan show. But yeah, so I have to say, I am very excited to wear this. I think it turned out really beautifully. It's super fun. I love this motif. It's totally fine if you are not interested in the fish girl summer stuff, but I think it's really cute. And I really love unique colorwork designs, whimsical designs. And again, I had the yarn in stash, so I felt like, let's just go for it. And now it's one of my favorite things. Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which I know we all know, they have decided to stop manufacturing yarn. That's very sad. I did get 3 sweater quantities as like a final hurrah, since it's one of my absolute favorite yarns. But this blocks out so beautifully. It's very soft. It's a Targhee wool, and it's just gorgeous. So yeah, unfortunately you won't be able to get that anymore, but I actually have found with my supplier a comparable yarn that I'm going to start dyeing, and it's like a woolen spun, non-superwash, gorgeous yarn. So in the colder months, I'm planning on bringing that in. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, I will put some pictures up. It's way too warm to wear it right now, but I will absolutely wear this in a video in the future. What else can I say? Yeah, the colorwork goes all the way around, of course. It's a circular yoke design. Mine is this very beautiful, rich green. It's called Forest Floor. And yeah, I just think it's so fun. And I'll go ahead and show you this guy too. So again, obviously we all know it's Fish Girl Summer, apparently. So WoollyPetals, Kristen, she came out with an incredibly cute sardine sewing pattern, and when she first started like teasing the pattern and her versions, I loved it right away. So when she did a test sew call, I immediately put my name into the hat, because I was definitely going to buy this pattern when it came out, but I thought I'd love to get a head start and go ahead and make one. So yeah, I got to do the test sew. It was really fun. This was my first version, so there's a couple places where, you know I could have improved, and I think in the final pattern she's created notes for like right here, my fin actually got stuck in the seam here, and you don't know that until you've turned it inside out, and at that point, you could go back and fix it, I think, but I didn't. I made a second version that I gifted to my friend. I'll put in a picture. And when I did that one, I pinned the fin out of the way so that I would, make sure it didn't end up in there. But yeah, so I've got my fish sweater. I've got my sardine pillow. This lives here at the shop. I used a combination of some Heather Ross fabrics and some Ruby Star Society fabrics there. And then these are some felt eyes that, I sewed on the top. There are multiple views of this pattern, but I did the sort of single-sided. It's like considered the single-sided because my fish is only on one side. But there is like a two-sided version where you can actually have, you know, the head go all the way around. It's got two eyes. I did the fully pieced version, so mine has, I'm confusing myself. Mine has like a different fabric for the head, and then the upper body, the lower body, and then I did, these are optional, but I did add the top fin and this fin here. So there's my fish, my sardine. You should absolutely go and sew this pattern, whether you're a beginner or you're more advanced. These are so fun. And after I sewed the first one, and you know, I made sure to go really slow, and I had to put, you know, piece the pattern together and take notes about my progress, all of that. The second one that I made took maybe an hour. So these are a nice quick sew, a great gift, I think. Yeah, I made one, like I said, for my friend because she had crocheted me a really cute little chicken at the end of last year, I think. So that was sort of my gift back to her. But yeah, that's my fish stuff. Don't know if I'll be making necessarily any more fish stuff other than some more sardine pillows, but yeah. So that was fun to be a little part of that trend that is still very much trending. Okay, the rest of the finished objects are sewing, and I'll be a little bit quick with this next one because this is actually just the tank top version of the dress that I'm currently wearing, down to the same fabric, just a different color choice. So I've got this beautiful pink fabric with, it's got the same orange like slubs woven into it. Yeah, it's the same exact pattern. It's just the tank top version. I sewed the same size and everything. Again, my straps are a little bit too long, so I did wear this yesterday, and I kind of just had to keep manipulating it so that the length of the straps was more in the back so that this would sit higher up. But it is really cute. I just need to fix these straps. But yeah, so my seams are serged and they're gonna last and not go anywhere. And yeah, very excited about that. The next two things I definitely shared in my little spring making vlog, as well as over on Instagram, but I wanted to share them here as well. So I made two versions of the Ruby Vest, and this is by Sid Graham. I'm sure you've seen this. There's multiple views and ways you can make this, basically unlimited options when it comes to how you're going to finish yours, what fabrics to use. It's quilted, so you could do like pieced quilting, which I plan to do at some point. And they are fully reversible, so it was really fun, you know, pairing some similar fabrics together, and depending on what I'm wearing, I can kind of change the look a little bit. I've worn this one quite a few times already. It's been really great. So this is sort of my right side, but then I also have this gorgeous version on the inside, and so instead of that white background fabric, it's pink, but it has all the same colors. But on your reversible side, up here where you finish the shoulders, you have a little bit of bias cake there, so that is visible when you wear it this way. So yeah, that is one of my Ruby vests, and I do have fabric to make several more actually. You know, when I made my first one, which was this one, I used out of all the fabrics that I purchased for this sewing pattern, I used the fabrics that I sort of liked the least because I thought, you know, if I don't love the fit, I'd like to use those other fabrics for something else. But it actually turns out that I have found a million different ways to style these, so that's really great. So this one is my strawberry version, so it has some pink bias tape. We've got this really pretty, kind of more subtle strawberry fabric, and then the inside is the same fabric in a different colorway. And so I have worn both of these sides, again, several times. So we've got a pink bow on this side with like the really high contrast black and pink and green fabric, and yeah, so I have some more fabrics to make like a goose/duck version. I have, what I need to make for the summertime, I have these tomato fabrics, so I want to make a tomato version. And I really like this view. This is the cropped version with the single bow, but I would like to try making the longer version with two bows as well. And yeah, there's different ways you can make it, but honestly, this is a very easy pattern, and if you have a little bit of quilting experience, that may help you because you'll have a little bit of knowledge of like how to handle the fabric, you know, how to handle how you're going to quilt it. I did just do it on my machine. And then as the bias, there's a lot of bias binding you have to do, and so there's no raw edges, but you are securing all of the quilt layers with bias binding. So if you've never done that, this could be a good way to kind of practice bias binding if you want to do a big quilt at some point, or try it on something like a little project bag and maybe work your way up to this. I don't know. It's a very easy pattern. Now I have a few cross stitch finished objects, and I will be quick with these. We'll start with this beautiful little design. This is by Sprouting Lupine, and this is called Nature's Promenade or Nature's Promenade, and it's so cute. So this was another freebie pattern, and it was a very quick stitch. We've got some beautiful wildlife, we've got some beautiful like native plants and just different flowers that you would see in a spring garden. So we've got like a fuchsia up here, and I think we've got nasturtium, and then there's this really pretty little mantis, and he's pink, which I love. So this was a very fun stitch. Got some lavender. I got to sit in my garden and stitch this a lot in the early spring, so that was really great. And then I finished it in this beautiful kind of medium dark wooden frame. And so this has been in my room. I have a lot of bug themed art in there. So yeah, this has been in my bedroom at home. And now that I'm showing you guys, I can go ahead and put my sawtooth hanger on the back and put it somewhere on the wall instead of just propping it up. So I'm trying obviously not to get the glare, but yeah, it's beautiful, very lovely pattern, very fun to stitch. I stitched this on, I think a 16 count Aida, if I remember correctly, maybe a 14 count, something. It was a small cut that I had in stash of just this really pretty spring green. So there's that one. This next one I showed you guys last time that I had finished the stitch, but I was waiting for my frame to come in, and now it has, so I thought I would bring it out just one last time and show you the frame. So I did pay for the, this is from Art to Frames. It's like a custom frame shop online. I did pay for the anti-reflective glass, but I think I got sort of the middle tier, whereas the last time I ordered this, I got the top tier because it was like my first big cross stitch finish, and I wanted a really beautiful frame, and so I thought I would try out this less expensive version of the glass, but I have to say, it's not anti-reflective at all. So, something to keep in mind if you plan on perhaps ordering glass from them or a frame from them. But anyway, my frame came in and it's gorgeous. And again, now that I'm showing this to you guys, finally, I can put it in a more permanent spot in my home. But yeah, this was the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Arctic Animal Stitch Along that started last year and finished up earlier this year. So yeah, absolutely loved stitching this, and I'm so glad that it's all framed and done. And here I have one more tiny finish. This was just a really quick start and finish project, and there's no glass, so no glare, thankfully. But this is another Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery pattern. They have this program, I think it's called Pumpkin Seeds, and it's basically rewards points, and I had accumulated enough points that I was able to get a few of their digital patterns for free. So this was one of the ones I picked out, and it's just a cute little girl riding an adorable unicorn. It's on pretty light fabric, and this is obviously a very pastel palette, so it's maybe a little bit hard to see. Hopefully it's not too bad. So I stitched this pattern called for DMCs and everything, but I kind of laugh at myself because the pattern, I almost stitched it perfectly, except for I accidentally added a few extra stitches right here. So I've been joking that my unicorn has a few extra sprinkles on his cake. So yeah, but he's very cute otherwise. And I had this frame just here at my shop, and normally I don't really like matting, if I'm honest, but I didn't want to buy a whole new frame when I already had a pink frame, so why not just stick it in here? So there's that little guy. And I haven't decided exactly what I'll do with this yet. Like, it could go in my daughter's room. It might stay here at the shop. I don't know. I actually have one more finished object that I almost forgot to share, which would have been too bad because I love this so much. So this is a bag that I sewed. This quilt block here came out, and it's from Mary Stitches. I think her name is Mary Swinton. And I'll have to put the name of the quilt block here on the screen because she has a series of these quilt blocks and they all have similar names. And I keep forgetting what this one is. It might be the Starry bee patch, something like that. But you can see, now I did use a lot of different fabrics, so it might be ghosting a little bit, but there's like a big central panel, and then there are these tiny triangles that go around here, and then you've got the big version out here. So it's like got layers, and it's really cute, and it enabled me to really be the maximalist that I am with my fabric choices. So that was fun. The center panel ended up a little bit wonky, I think just in the nature of piecing, and I don't mind that at all. So yeah, once I made that block, I pretty much knew right away I wanted to turn it into a project bag. So I used a modified version of the Anyone Can Make This Bag by Cinnamon Heart. Again, I will link this below. It's a really fantastic sewing pattern designer, and she makes really cute stuff. She's got great tutorials and patterns for patchwork things. I had made that bag at the end of last year at the smaller version as a gift for my best friend, and so it's mine is modified in the sense that I went with the measurements for her version, or for her larger version of the bag, but I changed the gusset down here. So she had this technique where you actually don't cut out like a gusset and make a boxed bottom. Hers actually takes the fabric and sort of creates like an envelope here, and even though I liked it on that little version, I didn't think I would really love it for me, so I just went ahead and cut out, you know, a little bit of a gusset in my outer fabric, in my lining, and I just did it the way that I would do any other bag, and I'm really happy with it. So yeah, this is all Heather Ross fabrics. Again, the inside is this really opulent vertical stripe. We've got this really bright orange and sort of a creamy yellow, sort of like a peach, and then I have this really, you know, the green. This is not showing up as vibrant, I think, on the camera as it is in person, but it's really, again, this beautiful opulent vertical stripe. We've got this beautiful green, much prettier in person, and then the same kind of peachy yellow. And for the handles, I used one of my favorite fabrics. It's this green with little, I think they're apples. They're like orange apples. And then I've got the vertical stripe underneath. And yeah, I got to really use up a lot of these beautiful fabrics that I had this fat quarter bundle, and yeah, so I just love this, and obviously it's some of the same fabric I used there, and so I'm excited to start carrying this around. I think it's really cute, and I would love to make myself some more. I'm also planning on making a few of these similar, not the same. This block is very intense. It took me like 2 or 3 days to finish, so I don't want to make that block again to give away, but I do plan on making a handful of these for some giveaway prizes. Like in June, we have Knit in Public Day, and we go every year to the Hoover Library, and I always donate a prize or two, so I'll probably make one for that event. So if you're coming to there, you could always throw your name in the hat to win that raffle, perhaps. And at the Alabama Fiber Festival in November, I'll probably have one of those as, again, a raffle prize. So yeah, I plan on making some more. I don't know if I'll make any for sale, maybe one day, but they are a little bit more labor intensive, so we'll see. I say that because I always get questions. Okay, now I'm going to move on to works in progress. I'll probably move a little bit more quickly through all of these just because this video, my hope was to keep it under an hour. I've been really trying to work on that, but I just have so much to show you guys today. So I'm just gonna show you things as they come across. So here I've got, in this gorgeous bag from Rose and the Wren, my Zora Pullover. This is a pattern by Marcena Koacek, and I'm knitting this out of Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. This is the colorway Marzipan. Very beautiful yarn. And I don't have any just white pullovers, and so I thought it was time to make one, I think. This is a beautiful, like, off-white, sort of gray beige kind of color, but anyway, it's gorgeous. This is probably just going to be one of my favorite things of all time when it's done. I mean, it already is, so I'm very excited. But I have split wrist sleeves, and I'm just sort of slowly working away on this. I did put it away for a little while when I was knitting some of my other things, but now I'm back to working on this, so this is something I'm actively engaged with again. You know, it's funny, it's like the most beautiful thing. I just want to have this finished object, but it's weird. Each round, it feels nice and easy, and quick and great, and then you're like flying through the chart, it feels like. But then I feel like I'm just making so little progress. It's strange. I'll knit forever and it looks like I haven't added anything. But the back is obviously much longer because this has a deep V-neck, so I can see where it's growing here. It's just harder to see under the sleeves and in the front there. But it's coming together, and yeah, again, it's so beautiful. I love Marcena's patterns, as I have said before, because she separates all of the sizes into individual PDFs. So that makes it so nice and easy to know exactly where you are in the pattern and to not second guess like your stitch counts and all of that, because everything you need is self-contained in that PDF just for you, which is lovely. I think I'm knitting the second size of this perhaps, and it's just so beautiful. There's lots of little stitch markers here to separate the panels of like twisted rib and the chart, which has bobbles and twisted stitches and some eyelets, and just very beautiful. Very easy to read your stitches with this one. This yarn has been very excellent for providing like a lot of definition in both the twisted rib and in these charts here. So yeah, this is just going to be stunning. I plan on, you know, wearing this, it's going to be long sleeves. I plan on wearing this over things like this sundress that I made. It's going to have a cropped length. At least that's the intention here. So it's going to look beautiful over dresses, with jeans, all of that. With this pattern, you can actually make this into either a cardigan or a pullover. And so I'm making the pullover, and I did debate on whether I was going to do the cardigan or the pullover, but I'm glad I ended up going with this pullover. So that's that one. It's almost time to join a new ball of yarn. Next up, I have in this really cute little bag a sock project. So I have one finished sock. It needs to have the ends woven in and to be blocked and washed and all of that, but otherwise it's done. So we've got one sock here, and this is the Nutcracker collection yarns. This is the self-striping skein from Tiny Human Knits, and I love it so much. So I'm almost done with the second sock. I have been thinking of these as like my chicken coop socks because, as a lot of you probably know, we got a whole new flock of chickens earlier this year. All of our old girls have sadly passed away, so we've got no more of our older birdies, but sorry, I've got a little tangle here. I'll worry about that later. Yes, we got 12 new chickens, and we are building them a massive, really great coop to keep over. Some of them will stay at the coop at our house, and some of them are going to go over to the coop that we're building at Jason's mom's house, my husband's mom's house. And so yeah, the coop has taken us way longer than we expected to. So every time I'm out there helping my husband to build it or paint it or what have you, anytime there's not something I can physically do, I'm knitting the sock and I'm just there for moral support. So these are my chicken coop socks. And we should be finishing that coop like in the next few days, and I'll be finishing the sock in the next few days, so that all worked out great. But yeah, I love this. And you know, I also have the yarns to make a striped pullover with the same exact color palette from Laura, and I'm very excited. I will be casting that on soon. So yeah, that's my current sock project. Oh, I should show you. So when I purchased this from her, I just got the 50-gram skein and the 20-gram mini, and this is all I have left for my second sock, so it should just be enough, which is great. It'll be kind of nice to not have leftovers, especially of a self-striping yarn, because I almost never find a use for those leftovers. So I love that she does the 50-gram skeins as an option. And then here we have another new cast on in this beautiful bag from Knitting Nelly. And this is, I think, my one and only summery project on the go. I am making the Tolsta Tank by Rebecca Clow. I purchased this pattern, I think, last year and just never made it. But this is another one of those designs where there's lots of views to choose from. And I am making the square neckline, I think. Originally, I was planning on making the V-neck, and I still could. I'm not there yet. But I think I'm going to make the square neck because I liked the way that that looked. There's also a vest version, which has sort of thicker straps, I think, and just kind of a little bit of a different neckline in the underarm. And so I looked extensively through all the project pages trying to decide which version I would do, and I think I've settled on the square neck. But yeah, so I'm striping these different colors, and this is Knitting for Olive it's their pure silk yarn. So this is really lovely, very soft. You know, it's not a plant-based fiber, but it's still a great summery fiber. And when I ordered this yarn, because yeah, I think right now I'm not really working with any yarns that I carry, mostly just yarns that have been in my stash. But I ordered this yarn from another shop because I had some like reward points in the shop app. A lot of the wholesale suppliers that I work with, they do their wholesale through the shop app. And so every time I purchase wholesale orders, I end up getting like accumulated rewards points basically. And so some yarn stores and other places accept those points. And so I was able to get a lot of this yarn practically for free, which was kind of fun. So I decided to order, you know, several colors. The only thing is they didn't have, most of their colors were totally out of stock. So I just kind of ordered what they had and just sort of hoped that it would all work out. So my main color is this chocolatey brown, and then I'm striping in this poppy red and this petroleum and this blue. I can't remember the names of all those colors. And I think that it works. Like, it works in theory, but I think that I wish that I could have adjusted the striping sequence a little bit and made the main color something more like the light blue and then striped in the brown. I think the brown, it's a little bit overwhelming for my wardrobe usually. Like, I love brown, I love all these colors, but not necessarily in this composition. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. I think it's a little bit overwhelming, but it's still going to be cute. But I do wish that my main color was something lighter like that light blue. But again, I just ordered what they had, so it'll be fine. Hopefully it's something cute and wearable. I really love the way the fabric feels and the way that it looks and the drape. So I think if I can just get this done, because to be honest, I haven't really wanted to work on it, but if I could get this done, if everything with the neckline looks nice and cute, then I will wear it, even if it's not the colors that I would normally pick. Because yeah, I think it makes me look a little harsh. Just, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it looks great. But I have been carrying all of my yarns, so I don't have ends to weave in at this point other than like the cast on. And that has been going fairly well, but I'll show you what that looks like just so you know, because I'm changing colors every 2 rows. So because I'm carrying the yarns, it is creating a little bit of like this line that I know you can see there. So I need to check the pattern and find out if the beginning of round is under your arm or on your back. You know, every pattern's a little bit different. And if this is already supposed to be under my arm, then great, I'll just keep it like that. But if that's supposed to be on my back, then I'm going to rework the pattern, you know, ever so slightly to make sure that's under my arm instead of on my back, because it would be much more noticeable on my back versus under my arm. It does kind of lift the whole thing up slightly. You might not be able to see it too well, but it does pull up a little bit. But I have been kind of playing around with it, you know, as I'm knitting it. Every once in a while I stop and just make sure that I'm not making a silly mistake by deciding to carry my yarn. And I think when I block it, it's not so much if I need to pull it vertically, but I actually think I need to just make sure I stretch it a little bit horizontally, and that is kind of going to help smooth things out. So I'll keep you guys updated and let you know how that goes. I'm kind of experimenting here, but hopefully it turns out great, so we'll see. This is what that looks like on the inside, carrying all those yarns. Every time I'm going to start a new round, I wrap all of the other 3 strands around that one that I'm going to use for that next round. And yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I keep it nice and light, loose, while avoiding holes or like gaps in the fabric. So yeah, again, it's just a bit of an experiment. Hopefully it all turns out beautifully. We shall see. So that's that one. Next I have, okay, I haven't shown this in a long time because I thought that I hadn't really worked on it, but I actually have. So when I pulled it out again, just to kind of gauge where I was at, I realized that I had split for sleeves, and I haven't shown that yet. So I thought I would show that today, but it looks like I have a little bit of a strange thing happening here. So this is my Wings pullover by Claudia Quintanilla, and this is from her newer book called It's from her newer book called Memory Lane. And I originally cast this on last year when her social media team basically reached out and asked if I would like to preview knit a few of the patterns or like pick a few of the patterns before the book came out. And of course I said yes, I would love to, and specifically this one. You can see here hopefully that it is an all over lace work blouse, and it's going to have a collar here, and in the middle of all of these lace motifs is a little bead. So, you know, it's a very ornate project. Again, it's going to be just the most beautiful blouse. I think this color I think suits me more than any other color. So I'm being very intentional about this project, not rushing it. But I did put it in a little bit of a hiatus because the beading rows are a little bit stressful, because the beads that I chose, the diameter for the hole is so small that even the smallest crochet hooks, my friends have like sets of vintage crochet hooks for things like doilies and stuff, even the absolute smallest gauge crochet hook that we could find would not fit through this bead. So I'm having to use these little floss things that my friend who has beaded before, she told me about, and these have worked really great, but after like 2 to 3 beads they become so warped that it's hard to keep going with them. So it's like every time I get a fresh one, the bead goes on great, but I don't want to be wasteful and use a new one every time. That would also be expensive because there's hundreds of beads in here, I think. Anyway, long story short, the beading rows have put me off ever so slightly because of the beads that I chose. And it's too bad because they're beautiful, so I'm gonna keep going, but it's tourmaline, and I got what this company, it's Tejas Beads, they call it watermelon tourmaline. I don't know if everybody calls it that or what, but it's the way that they composed the tourmaline. There's like some almost black, like smoky gray, some really light green, and then there's also some soft pinks that look a lot like the yarn, so those ones are a little bit more subtle on the camera. But it's gorgeous. I'm happy with my choice. It's just taking a while. I also was looking forward to having the physical copy of this book, because when I agreed to do this, they said they were going to send me a copy of the book when it came out. And then from what I understand, their social media person, she was lovely, but I had been kind of working with her, and then she left the business or got another job or something, and I don't know what happened, but I never received my copy of the book. I know others did, but I never got my copy of the book. So I just didn't, it was kind of harder to work from the Word document because, you know, it's a little bit easier for me to work from either like, I don't know, just the format. It doesn't really matter. I've brought the book in for sale at my shop, so now I finally have my own copy, and now I'm excited to work on this again. So yeah, it's gorgeous. I think it'll probably be like the most beautiful piece I've ever made. I've put a lot of work into it already, so I'm excited to have split for the sleeves and I just need to get the body to the right length, and then it'll be smooth sailing, I think. But the construction is gorgeous. It has this raglan detail, and so I just think it looks so beautiful. I love all of the little accessories I have on this one, so that's kind of motivating. Like I have my no face stitch stoppers. I think I have some of these in stock on my website. And then I have my little hand carved no face from Tilting Planet, and that in combination with the color of the yarn, the bag that I'm using, this is one of my bags from a couple years ago, and then the color of the beads, just everything about this. It's so like romantic and lovely and beautiful, and I want to work on it. I just need to get through all the beading. So yes, that's my current progress. I haven't shown that in a long time, but every once in a while I'll take it out and work on it for a day or two and then put it away again. So I just need to focus on it. I think I have one more knitting whip to show you. Of course, I've got a few other projects, but some I'm not actively working on. So this one is in my little bear bag. I made this, I think, at the end of last year. I made one for myself and one as a gift for my sister-in-law, but this bag was the perfect pairing for my bear sweater. So again, a couple years ago, I knitted this pattern for my husband. I love to return to patterns. I often make things like sewing and knitting. I make them multiple times. I just like to do that. But a couple years ago, I made the Unbearable hoodie by Maxim Cyr as an anniversary present for my husband, and I always kind of wanted my own, so I'm finally making my own, and I'm also going to make one for my daughter because he also has the pattern in children's sizes, so we will have matching bear sweaters, and that is very exciting. So this is the progress on mine. I'm almost done with the colorwork yoke. I have just a few more rows, one last increase, and then I will split for sleeves, and you know, I'll have to come back to the provisional cast on and knit the hood and all of that. But once I get past this colorwork, the rest of this is going to be pretty fast, I think. And I would have been already in the body, but I actually got to this point before and ripped it back out because I had used this bluey green. Originally when I picked this color, I thought it was green. It's blue. This is the yarn that I carry. But I had that in the flowers down here, and right up against the brown bear, it was just ghosting. It almost completely disappeared, and I kept telling myself that it was going to be okay, and so I kept going, and finally I just realized I needed to take a step back and rip it out because I wasn't going to love it in the end, and that would be silly to waste the time and, you know, all of that. So I ripped it out and I put it in timeout for a week, and then I finally, I think yesterday, decided to go ahead and pick another color and introduce it into here. And so now mine is going to have a couple different colors here, and I'm using this really lovely pink. So these are yarns. The blue and the pink are yarns that I carry in my shop. This is Sadness Garn Alpaca in the, I think, Deep Petroleum colorway. And then this is Pure Gint, the pink down here. And I think it's like bubblegum pink, but I have them on my website. And then the brown is Farm Yarn that I got from, I think they're called Cultivating Tools of Cultivation. It's a farm in Alabama, and at the Alabama Fiber Festival this past November, I picked up a couple skeins of this beautiful, really sheepy wool from them, and so it was the perfect yarn to put in here. And then the white is left over. It was my contrast color in my tuku pullover. It's this is tuku wool DK, and it's just like a lovely rustic white. And so yeah, this has been lovely to knit with. I love working with those toothier woolen yarns for colorwork because they just do so much better, and they're springy and just really nice to work with. So yeah, this has been great. I'm excited to finish the colorwork again and to keep going because my intention, and we'll see how this goes, but the last time I did a podcast, I shared that I finished a sweater spin of this beautiful alpaca silk yarn, and my intention is to make this my main color for the body and the sleeves. And it has the pinks and blues in it, so it's going to tie together well, I think, with all of the colors that I've chosen so far. The only thing is, I'm just not sure if it's going to end up looking too busy, but the way that the pattern is designed, the color of the bear is supposed to be your main color, but I only had 2 skeins of this, and I've almost used up 1 whole skein for the bears here, so I definitely don't have enough of that to keep going. So if this doesn't look right, then I will have to just go a new route and pick a different kind of maybe solid yarn. So we'll see how this progresses, but in this next week I expected a lot of progress done on this. So there's that. I'm knitting the smallest size of this pattern because when I originally knit this for my husband, I made the second size, and it was definitely too big for me. So I'm hoping that this size will work out just fine, even though I think the recommended ease of the pattern would have naturally led me to knit the second size of it. But again, because I have my husband's to try on, I know it's too big. So hopefully this works out. I know my gauge is probably a little bit bigger because these yarns are, even though some of them are like DK weight, I would say it's a little bit more worsted weight naturally. So yeah, we'll see. It should be really cute. If it's oversized, I'll make it a little bit cropped. So yeah, stay tuned on that. And now I think I just have some cross stitch works in progress to show you real fast. So first, the one that is absolutely my favorite is my unicorn. It's the Unicorn's Garden by Sprouting Lupin, and this is the pattern that I would say most made me want to pick up cross stitch. So it's in a nerd hoop. I guess I need to take it out. But I started this last year, and you know, if you've been following along for a while, you may remember that when I started this, it was the first time I had ever worked on linen, and I was actually, long story short, it was a learning curve. It didn't go so great, so I actually restarted it on a different cut of fabric, and now I just love it, and it's going great, and I have stitched on linen other times, and I'm much more experienced with it, but this is my progress so far. And it is just breathtaking. This design is so remarkable and the color palette is just incredible. So I think the last time I shared it, I hadn't even finished the unicorn, I think. Maybe I finished the unicorn when I did my spring making vlog, but since then I've been working on this a couple times since I made that video, and I have added some more of the floral motifs. I just finished these little stems yesterday. I need to add in the flowers. I've started on sort of this big section of like the bottom of this, where it's going to have this motif repeated several times in rows, and here we'll have the year. So I thought about yesterday putting in the 5. I think I'll get this done in 2025, but I don't know for sure, so I kind of want to wait because I'm only about 25% of the way done. So I have measured this fabric a couple times because I realized like this might be cutting it close, but this should be exactly right with a little bit of a margin, maybe an inch or two, like an inch to an inch and a half all the way around. And I framed myself, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, so you can see I'm about a quarter of the way done. I still have this whole thing. I've got to start the tree up here. And yeah, there's a lot to do, but I'm so excited to be working on this. And I think my goal is to kind of just work on this until it's done and to not really touch any other projects, because if I just devote myself to it, I could get it done. So when I first started stitching a little over a year ago, I only worked on like one project at a time, and then I fell really, really in love with cross stitch, and it's like I wanted to make all the things, and that's still true, but I really want to see more finished pieces instead of putting a little bit of time in a lot of projects. At least that's how I feel right now. It could change tomorrow, but that's my current goal. That said, I did start the Lola Crow stitch along, and I have to say it was going great, but the frame portion of this stitch along, so this is the Extraordinary Birds Sal, and the pattern, I actually received the pattern for free as part of like a drawing, so that was really nice. And of course I purchased all of the materials, but the first 6 weeks I think are just devoted to starting on the frame, and the frame had over 6,000 stitches. So, you know, it was a little bit more than 1,000 stitches per week I needed to get done, and I had done the math of how many stitches I needed to do per day to be ready for when the first like clue feet came out, and I had been trying to make that happen, and eventually I just realized it wasn't going to happen. I reopened my shop after we were closed from the tornado for like 6 weeks, and these past few weeks of being back at the shop, despite what it may look like with everything I've been doing, have been way too busy to like stitch on this daily, because usually it's several days in between when I'm able to cross stitch. This is a much more solitary craft, and it's, you know, I can't really do it at the shop. I've got my daughter, I'm dyeing up wholesale orders and preparing for my next event, all of that. So yeah, long story short, no excuses, but I just haven't been able to prioritize stitching this the way that I needed to be on top of it. So I will not be getting this done when the stitch along is over, and that's okay. I'm still going to get it done at some point because this is like the most gorgeous thing. This color palette is insane. Those teals and gold, it's just so beautiful. I've got my first bird over there. That was part of the frame. And then here I'm about to start the owl, which is also part of the frame. And so far, 2 of the feet have already come out, and I'm sorry about this hanging thread here. 2 of the feet have already come out, so we'll have like I think it's the blue-footed booby, and something else will be down there, and it's gonna be beautiful, and I'm very excited. But yeah, I've decided to give myself a little grace because it was making me anxious. So I'm just removing that anxiety, and it'll get done when it gets done. But I love my fabric. This is Morning Fog by Bestitch Me. It's a 36 count linen, and you know, one thing I will say, I wasn't able to start this as soon as the frame was released because my fabric, I ordered it well within the window of like receiving it in time, but I didn't get it until a few days into the frame coming out, and I think something about that made me feel like I was already behind, and so it was harder for me to feel motivated to really catch up. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's just cross stitch. But it is so gorgeous, and of course I got a little goose needle minder because a goose is a bird, you know? I also made myself a little project bag just for the stitch along, so it has all the same kinds of colors like that caramel and gold and sagey green and blue, and of course it's bird fabric and it's beautiful. And here are all my flosses in here on floss rings, so yeah, maybe I'll find some time to work on this in the next week or so. So yeah, I want to just work on my unicorn with a little bit of stitching on this here and there, just because it's a massive stitch count and I would love to have that one done. Yeah. You know, and here I am saying all of that, but okay, I've got one more exception. So in June, Marjorie of Marjorie Made, who I adore, just so you know, she hosts, I think last year was the first year, and now we've all just been talking about it so much that she has no choice. She has to do it again. But she hosts what's called the Strawberry Moon Sal, because I guess the idea is that every month has its own like named moon. And yeah, so June is for the strawberry moon. And so I haven't pulled this out in so long. This is incredible. I am stitching Strawberry Mountain by Jet X Stitch. And so I will be probably, okay, all right, here's the plan. I'm going to, in June, put away the unicorn for 1 month and get as far in this project as I can. And then come July 1st, whether this is done or not, I'm switching back to the unicorn. That's what I'll do. So yeah, this is Strawberry Mountain, and I had worked on this for a couple of days, made some good progress, and then put it away again. But yeah, I forgot I had this needle minder on here. Wharton Greg, it's so cute, riding a little goose. But I'm excited to finally get into the strawberries and all of that, and I love the fabric, and the color palette is insanely gorgeous. Like this is me in a color palette. I love it quite a lot. And I will say, sometimes I get questions about this. These are little floss drops, floss organizers from Sunrise Grove, and I carry these in my shop. I've got the bigger ones and the smaller ones, so yeah, if you're looking for those are on my website. So yeah, Strawberry Mountain. That is going to be stunning. And, oh, I do have... Well, you guys are going to be laughing at me at the end of this. I do have one more project that I forgot about that I brought. It's from this Stardew Valley cross stitch book, and okay, I got a rabbit. That's a whole story on its own, but his name is Junimo, which is of course from Stardew Valley. So when I ordered his hutch, I knew I wanted to create a little cross stitch piece to hang up on the outside of his hutch, and so this is Junimo, my rabbit, and this is a Junimo. And so I'm using little motifs in this book to create just something kind of small that I can frame. This will probably be right here, the width of it, and then it'll go a little bit taller, and then I'll have some stuff in the corners. So, you know, maybe like 4 by 4 inches, something like that. And these are very super quick to stitch. So once I finish this, I'm gonna hang it up on his little hutch. But my plan is to do another Junimo up here, maybe holding something, because I can't show you the charts in here, but there's different Junimos in here to choose from. So I'll probably have Junimo up here, and then I'm going to do some of his favorite foods on the sides, and then I'll do some little ornate like things in the corners just to round it out. And then I'm going to frame that for him, and it's going to be really cute. But I just can't get over how cute this looks and how realistic it looks to the game. So yeah, and I'm just using stash flosses for this. I'm using some fabric I had in stash. It's like a peachy pink. Not much more I can say about that. I am very excited to work on that. Yeah, so there's that. So I can talk a little bit about a few more crafty plans. I did get started on another quilt. Again, I did kind of already show these in my spring making vlog, but I thought I would show them here in case you didn't watch that. But I'm making a quilt with this sort of color palette. These lavenders, pinks, creams, and caramel / caramel orange, rusty kind of colors. So I've got 2 of those so far. I have this version. I have this version, so I've done a few of these ones with different animals in the center. I'm kind of fussy cutting, but not a whole lot, because I don't want to lose yardage just to get an animal right in the center. So I'm just kind of cutting them more, I don't know, naturally, I guess. And then I have a couple of these ones. And then I have lots of other fabrics in stash to keep going, but you can kind of see the idea of like the color palette that I'm going for. I will say, originally I was planning on making all of the background squares. This is called Cream Puff. I think it's a Ruby and Bee Solids. I get most of my fabrics from Camberville Threads online. So I was going to do all of them with this cream puff colorway in the background, but I kind of decided that I wanted to introduce a little bit more color. So I'm going to do some test squares and then kind of lay them out and see what I think. But I got some solids of like the lavender color, and I think I also got maybe a pink. And so I'm going to alternate like the cream puff and lavender and pink background colors for the squares. And then I haven't decided if I'm going to do sashing yet. I have not tried sashing before. I think it would look really pretty, but I have done a whole quilt of just sawtooth stars without sashing. I think it looks gorgeous. So yeah, this one I'm going to just play around with, but that one I want to make for my home. The other one, it's normally on this couch. I moved it, but that one's lived here so far since I made it. So I really want to make this one specifically to go in my room at home, which has a lot of caramels and lavenders and orange and sage green and those kinds of colors. So that is my quilty plan right now. Of course, I've got other garments that I'm planning on making, starting with this one. So a couple of months ago, I think, one of my favorite humans and creators, she did like a pre-order for bags with this fabric. This is from Fat Squirrel Fibers. And it's gorgeous, and the timing was perfect because I'm big into gardening, didn't know that, and I love rabbits. They're like my favorite things, favorite creatures, and I had pre-ordered this, and then, you know, I told you I got a rabbit, and then my bag came like right after I got the rabbit. It was just such great timing. It was so exciting. But this fabric, the more I looked at it, the more I just fell in love with it. And there is a blouse sewing pattern that I have kind of queued up to create. And so when I got this, I just kept pondering it and wondered if I would be able to get this fabric on some kind of cotton lawn or something that would be good for a blouse. So I took a picture of this and did a little like Google Lens to find it. And it turns out it is from a company where you can choose the material you want the design printed on. And so it's from Hawthorne Supply Company, but I did get 2 yards of that fabric printed on the most gorgeous, soft, beautiful cotton lawn. And so I'm going to create the Nephilim blouse, and I'll put up a picture. But I'm going to do this gorgeous fabric, and then I'm going to use this kind of golden color for the ruffled details. And if you're looking at the picture somewhere, you'll see what I mean. But this will be my little accent color. And so I think it's going to be like Storybook core come to life again. I'm very excited, and I know I'll be able to wear this collar with this blouse. So I'm like picturing all of the ways I'll get to style this as long as it goes well. But I'm very excited. So that's my next sewing plan. I've ordered the PDF to be printed, and so that's on its way. And once it gets here, I'm gonna make this, and I'm just looking forward to it. I also, 2 of my best friends, it's a married couple, they are in Japan right now, and they are about to come home, so we'll see if they are successful. But they are looking for the Sanrio Liberty fabrics for me that are exclusive to Japan. You can get them online from like resellers and things, but of course it's very expensive to order it because Liberty fabrics are already quite pricey. And then adding on top of that shipping from Japan, and then a little bit of markup for whoever is going out and getting that for you. So my friends are going to a huge craft store in Japan where they supposedly carry this fabric. And so, you know, there's a good chance they will come back with 2 yards of this fabric for me. If they don't find it, I will, you know, it'll just be fine. It'll be fine. But I am really hoping that they find it, and I'm looking forward to it. So I will also be turning that into a Nephilim blouse. And I did get this idea from Ariel of Airy Knits because she went to Japan and found this fabric, and that's how I learned about it. And then of course I went on a rabbit hole trying to find it and researching it. And then of course my best friends, some of my closest friends were going to Japan, and I just realized like, hey, maybe they'll come across this. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited. I'm hoping that they find it. And if not, I'm going to make the Nephilim blouse, which again, Ariel had made that, and I loved that pattern so much. So I've been eyeballing it and finally decided to go ahead and commit to it with the fabric. But as long as this goes well, then I'm going to definitely make it with some Liberty fabric as well. Hopefully they find the Sanrio one. If they don't, then I will use a different kind. But yeah, so those are my plans. I am now surrounded by a huge mess of projects. I have been very busy over the past few months, as you can tell. And of course, I always have my little gears turning. There's so many things I want to make. I have a lot to do with the shop. Business has been amazing since we reopened. So thank you guys for shopping with us online, coming to see me in person. The Saturday knitting groups have been like slam packed, which is so great. So yeah, it's been a really lovely time. And then of course we have on June 14th, we've got Knit in Public Day. So if you're local, you can find me at the Hoover Library. I'll be vending at that event per usual. And then I don't really have anything else scheduled until September for Fiber Frenzy, which is another local event with the Fiber Guild. And that'll be like a one-day event. And then in October, I'm vending at SAF, the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair. So we've got that. And then November, we'll have the Alabama Fiber Festival. This will be our second year doing it, and we are in a new location this year. So make sure you check out the website. They're going to have merch on pre-order, I think in a couple days, but you can already go ahead and buy tickets if you're local or you want to have somewhere fun to travel in the middle of November. And then it should be pretty quiet after that. We'll see. I do have the Stardew Valley concert coming up in September, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much everything we've got coming up as far as events go. Comic-Con is this coming weekend in Birmingham, so I'm hoping to go to that. I do Mandalorian cosplay, and hopefully I'll get to go and wear my armor and feel awesome, and yeah, hoping for that.
As I'm packing up, I realized there's one little thing I wanted to show you guys that I forgot to, so I'm going to insert this in here somewhere. But yeah, I have definitely over the past few months purchased a couple of things, and I'm not going to go into everything, but I did want to show you guys this gorgeous fiber from my favorite fiber dyer, Wee Chickadee. So I only brought these two braids here to show you, but I had been really hoping to buy some of her fiber for a little while, and when I saw she was having a shop update, I waited for it, and then yeah, I was blown away by all of her choices, and it was hard to show restraint, but I got 3 braids of this color, and this is Moonbeam. It's a Falkland wool, and it's so gorgeous. So it's a pastel rainbow, and when I knitted my pressed flowers cardigan, I had used my hand spun of a bit of a similar colorway, but it was a little bit more less pink and purple. So this one has more pinks and purples. So I got 3 braids of this to make something for probably another mosaic colorwork project. Yeah, it's so gorgeous. So I got 3 braids of this, and then she had a little sale section of sort of like seconds. So I actually got 2 of these, and these were very inexpensive. And when I read the description, she said that it's because she sold them this way because some of the fibers got a little bit compacted, so they might require like a little bit of extra drafting, I think was what she said. Honestly, they seem so perfect to me, so yeah, I don't know, but I'm very much looking forward to it. This is a gorgeous colorway. I mean, just absolutely stunning. So I got 2 of these, so I'll make probably a shawl or use it for colorwork and something again. It's called Follow the Sun, and again, it's a Falkland wool. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I love this fiber dyer. She does a beautiful job, and her fiber, I mean, it's just so stunning. So yeah, thought I would share that too.
I thought I would bring these beautiful books, and I forgot one at home, but this is the book that I'm currently reading. This is Shady Hollow by Juno Black, and it is an anthropomorphic animal murder mystery, just lovely little book. I've seen many people talk about this, so you've probably heard of it, but I'm maybe a third of the way through. It's hard, reading time is hard to come by, so I end up listening to a lot of audiobooks, but I have been thoroughly enjoying this book, and it's one of those things where you find yourself smiling the whole time you're reading it, so it's been really great reading this book. Highly, highly recommend. I've been trying to convince everybody I know to read this book, so yep, I love that book. When we were in Nashville for the Nash Yarn Fest in April, aka when the tornado was hitting my store, we found a little bit of time to go to some antique bookstores, like really amazing bookstores that had very old books, very well preserved books, a lot of rare books, things like that. But I came across 2 books that I had to have. So I got The Wind in the Willows, which is my favorite childhood book. Anthropomorphic animals, again, hello. But this version I had never seen before. It's gorgeous. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say this was printed in the 70s. Let's see. 1968, so I was close. But it is so gorgeous, and it has that wonderful old book smell, and I just love the color palette here. The illustrations are beautiful. So I've got this copy of The Wind in the Willows to read, and yeah, I've read the story 1,000 times, but I'm excited to read this. I gotta take that off, but read this, you know, by myself and with my daughter as a bedtime story. The other one that I got is Peter Rabbit, and that one, I'll have to bring it next time because I think it's even a little bit older than this, and it is absolutely stunning. And so my daughter and I have been reading those stories when I'm putting her to bed at night. And then of course my rabbit story. So if you want to briefly hear the rabbit story, I will tell you the story of little June June. So my whole entire life I have wanted a pet rabbit, and you know, I've always had pets. Like, I'm not hurting for pets. You know, I have a cat, I've got 2 dogs, we've got 12 chickens. So I've always had pets, can't complain, but mom and dad, because they watch my videos, I always wanted a rabbit so much. And they always remind me that when I was a little girl, I created a PowerPoint presentation about why I wanted a bun, as I apparently called them then. I only vaguely remember this. It's like mostly secondhand. Anyway, I always really wanted a rabbit, like forever. And actually recently I had been looking into local rescues and trying to find a place where maybe I could adopt a little bunny, specifically like a lop. You know, I love the long floppy eared rabbits. I love all rabbits, but those ones are so cute. And yeah, so I had even put my name on a waiting list back in April or March for sort of like a local, again, a rescue to hopefully adopt a rabbit at some point. But one day I was here at work and my husband texted me and said, you're gonna love me even more later. And I texted him back like, oh, that's not even possible. I couldn't possibly love you more, you know, something cute. And he says, oh no, you will, just wait. So the whole day goes by and he texts me a little bit about it, and you know, I like surprises, so I was trying not to ask like, oh, well, what is it? But I was curious, and so I was very excited because he made it sound like it was just gonna be the best thing ever. And it's unusual, like that's not how he usually expresses himself, so I thought this must be really something special. So long story short, you know, I get home, and then because of traffic and all of these things, it took him forever to get home. So he gets home and I go outside and, you know, I say hello and whatever. He like distracts me. And so I go back inside, and then he like tells me to come back outside and to look in the back of, you know, the back seat of his truck. It's like, go over there, and I see a box. And I was immediately like, oh, this has to be something alive because there's an open box here. And I just ever so slightly glanced into the box and I saw my bunny. And I hope people were looking out their window when this happened, because it had to be hilarious to watch. You know, we live in a neighborhood, so I definitely have some neighbors who could have witnessed this. But of course, my reaction is I have to run over and give him a huge hug and just say thank you and like all of that. So I'm chasing after him to hug him, and he's running away from me because he's a silly goose. And so he's running and I'm chasing him, and then, you know, finally I give up because he won't let me catch him. So I run back over to the rabbit, and the second time I look at him, I just started sobbing like uncontrollably, so excited. And then he was like, wait, is this a good thing? What's wrong? Is everything okay? And I was like, it's happy tears. So, you know, I was so excited, and finally he let me hug him. So there we go. But yeah, he is the most delightful little rabbit. And when I first got him, so basically he came from a bit of a rescue situation. One of my husband's coworkers had seen something dark behind a dumpster in the rain outside of their apartment and went to go see it because they thought maybe it was a cat, but it turned out it was this domesticated rabbit. And so they brought the rabbit inside. They weren't sure what to do with it, and they were telling everybody at work about the rabbit. And, you know, they had tried to take it to the Humane Society, who said that they would just euthanize him. So, of course, thankfully, his coworker brought the rabbit back home. And so they're telling the story, and my husband explained it like this. He goes, I'll take it. And of course, the whole group is like, wait, really? And he's like, yes, I will take this rabbit, because he knows that I've always wanted one. So, yeah, that's how I got my rabbit. And when he first came home, we weren't sure like if he was a boy or a girl. Somebody had clearly probably gotten him as a present and then let him go. So I took him to the vet, right away. And of course he's a boy, and I could have figured that out, but he's a boy, and he's estimated between 6 months and a year old. He's not yet neutered, so I have an appointment this week to take him to get neutered. And yeah, he's just the sweetest little bunny. He has really warmed up to us so quickly, honestly. It took very little time. He's got favorite foods already. He has his routines. He has been doing what I have found out is called binkies. Every time I say that word, my husband recoils because, it's a little cutesy, but that's what it's called when rabbits get like the zoomies. It's cute. So he has been, leaping into the air and just like so happy, and we've cuddled, and yeah, he's so sweet, so soft. And his name is Junimo, as I said, just like Stardew Valley. And my daughter, I told her, like, if that's too hard for you to say, you can call him like Junie or something. And she called him June, and so that's kind of stuck too. So he has a million names, and he's precious, and I love him. That's the story of my rabbit. And yeah, now that I have chatted your ear off, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and get to editing this video, because this is a long one. So yeah, great to be back, and let me know what you guys have been up to. Hope you're having a really lovely spring and looking forward to summer, or I guess some of you are heading into winter. So yeah, I hope you're all doing well, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.